Good day, and welcome to the Best Talk series presented in the Faculty of Business and Economic Sciences at Nelson Mandela University. My name is Hendrik Lloyd, and I'm the Executive Dean of the Faculty of Business and Economic Sciences. And it is my distinct pleasure and honor to welcome you to our Best Talk series. This series is a new initiative within the faculty, and it takes place on a monthly basis. The purpose and objective of this Best Talk series that every department will present a series of lectures on a monthly basis so as to showcase the various levels of expertise as well as fields of interest to the wider university and external community stakeholders. In that way, we can showcase our faculty, and we can also introduce new contemporary topics and views on topics every month. I wish that you would join us every month for these talks and that you would enjoy it with us. I thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Dr. Musenga Mpwanya. I am from Nelson Mandela University. I'm based in Kebeha. I am in the Department of Logistics, in the Faculty of Business and Economic Sciences. And I teach a couple of subjects in the department where I'm a senior lecturer. The subject includes supply chain management, introduction to logistics and transport economics, and logistics 3. Apart from that, I'm also involved in research where I supervise masters and PhD students and also participate in various faculty research committees. I specialize in logistics, supply chain, and procurement. Today I'll be talking about public procurement, digitalization, and irregular expenditure. This is an important topic. This is a societal issue, and it concerns all of us. And in the next minutes, I'm going to link these three concepts together, and at the end, I'm going to give a way forward. Public procurement is an important topic, as I've said. It refers to the government function that is responsible for buying, acquiring goods, services, works in order to meet government objectives. And acquisition management is an important aspect of the South African supply chain management model. Together with demand management, logistics management, and disposal management, they provide an important basis under which the South African supply chain management achieves its objectives. And the acquisition of goods, services, and public works are very important to government. Not only the South African government, but to all government. Because public procurement is used as a tool, an important tool to achieve not only basics need of the citizens, but also social, economic development goals of nations. That's the reason why government across the world commit huge amount of money on public procurement. When it comes now to the South African government, it spent approximately 1 trillion rand on public procurement annually. This is the statistics of 2023. And the government spends on public procurement keeps on increasing yearly. And this is not only a South African issue, it's a global issue, it's a global trend. And this global trend here shows that increase in spending on public procurement. And by looking at the volume of money committed on public procurement, it shows the importance that the South African government places on public procurement, because it is a tool to achieve socio-economic transformation goals, creating jobs, developing SMMEs, and also achieving other goals that the government has set. And it's also important also to underline that public procurement accounts for a significant expenditure and 12% of the GDP. And this percentage is not only related to the South African case, in other countries as well, African, even European countries, even Asian countries, public procurement as well accounts for the same percentage, contribute the same percentage to their GDP. It's very important that we also understand the importance of spending, expenditure management. Expenditure management is an important topic because when the government is able to manage effectively its expenditures, it maximizes the efficient use of resources. It also ensures that there is high level of transparency and accountability in government expenditure. The issue of efficient use of resources is capital, is an important topic because it has to do with, it aligns with the requirement of our constitution, our South African constitution. If we look at our section 217 of the constitution, it also emphasizes a couple of issues, a couple of principles, and one of them is about efficiency or cost effectiveness. And cost effectiveness is to do with the efficient use of resources, meaning that we need to ensure all public officials, including procurement officials, supply chain managers, project managers, they should ensure that they use the resources committed to them efficiently. For every rand that is spent, it should be worthwhile. That's the reason why market research plays a very important role. And an effective public expenditure also allows the government to be able to also ensure transparency across the entire public procurement process. Transparency is key. We are able to see what is taking place across the entire public procurement, and also emphasizes the issue of accountability. Accountability is an important topic because all public procurement or supply chain professionals supply chain staff in a government department or other public entities are held to this principle of accountability. Every decision that they make, they should be accountable. And it is important to manage public procurement in a manner that it ensures accountability of those who make decisions related to public procurement. Public procurement aims to achieve two objectives. The first one is primary objective, and this primary objective consists of the ability of the government to achieve the basic needs of its citizens by committing public funds to fund schools, to build bridges, to build as well other infrastructures that the country needs. And apart from that, public procurement also seeks as well to achieve secondary objectives. Secondary objectives are those goals that I have mentioned earlier on, relating to socio-economic development goals. And these include the creation of jobs, the support for economic transformation, and in our country we have a number of initiatives that the government has put in place in order to support economic transformation. And these include advancing the historical disadvantaged individuals, capacitating them in order for this category of the population to be able to participate fairly and effectively in our economic growth. And apart from that, we also have the BBBEE, which is also another initiative, and this as well has been elevated to a policy whereby when it comes to the selection or the appointment of suppliers, looking at the BBBEE is one of the requirements, and there are points that are associated with a supplier having or complying with the BBBEE. And also socio-economic transformation goals also involve or include the support or development of SMME. And SMMEs are important tools to grow the economy of any country. Studies have been conducted on the matter, and it has been found that they constitute an important category of companies that support economic growth in the country, in both developing countries as well as developed economies. And in our country, in the context of South Africa, we have initiatives such as the Enterprise Supplier Development, which is an important initiatives that the government has put in place. And these initiatives allows bigger companies to work together with small companies, supporting them to acquire enough capabilities and be able to deliver. These initiatives, in other words, support the transfer of knowledge and transfer of capabilities from bigger companies that are experienced in the area, that have been in the business for a long time, to smaller SMMEs, companies that have been in the business or that have just started in the business. And through this program here, SMMEs are able to capitalize, to work on a bigger project, and also gain some experience that they need in their future project. And it's also very important also to underline that socio-economic transformation goals are key to the South African government, and it has been included in public procurement in order to support socio-economic development, to support local companies. It's important also to underline that compliance plays a very important role when it comes to public procurement. Public procurement in any country is an area which is highly regulated. There are a lot of regulations that govern public procurement. And these regulations and procedures need compliance. It's very important that we underline that compliance plays a very important role, because that is what supports public procurement. It's the issue of compliance. Compliance with legislation and compliance with procedures. And as I earlier on alluded to, Section 217 of the Constitution, which is the key element of public procurement, because it provides or it guides or it provides principles that support public procurement. And according to Section 217 of the Constitution, it says that any organ of state that wants to trade, to transact, to procure, should do it in a manner which is fair, transparent, equitable, and cost-effective. Section 217 of the Constitution provides the basis on which all activities of public procurement should be conducted, should be based on. And the first aspect or principle that it introduces is the principle of fairness. Any organ of state, be a government department or any public entity, should procure or transact fairly. Fairness is to do with impartiality in the procurement process. The procurement process should be fair, should be impartial. And the second principle is the principle of transparency. Transparency plays a very important role because we have procurement processes, procurement procedures, procurement activities, and each of these activities, processes, procedures should be clear enough, should be clear to the public, and also criteria that are used either to advertise for tender should also be clear enough so that those that are willing to bid or to tender can also know what they should expect when they tender. An important aspect as well or principle is the principle of equity. Equity has to do with equal opportunities, meaning that all companies that want to participate in public procurement should be given equal opportunities. No giving some preferential treatment to one company and leaving the other. Equal opportunities should be observed. This is what equity is about. And the last principle from Section 271 of the Constitution is the issue of competition, cost effectiveness. Competition is an important aspect, and all bids or tenders should be genuinely competitive. Everybody should compete on the same footing. Not some, they are competing on one footing and the other on the other footing. That's what competition has to do. It's about ensuring that all of those who participate in the bidding or in the tendering process compete fairly, effectively, and genuinely. The other important aspect is about cost effectiveness or efficiency, which is the last principle or the fifth principle emanating from Section 217 of the Constitution. Cost effectiveness, efficiency, it has to do with value for money. When we want to procure, need analysis plays a very important role. And for every rand every 1 rand that we spend, we need to ensure that we obtain value for the goods or the service or the work that we procure for any organ of state. Section 217 of the Constitution is the key principle or the chief principle of public procurement. Is also supported by a couple of regulations. These include the Public Finance Management Act, Municipal Finance Management Act, National Treasury Instruction Note, Public Procurement Act, and others. In South Africa, we have 52 pieces of legislations. It shows how important, how difficult it becomes for those who need to apply public procurement in terms of complying to legislations face. They face a lot of issues when it comes to knowing all of these principles, understanding, applying all of these principles, these procedures, all these laws and regulations. They are many, and sometimes some of this legislation here, they contradict one another, which also create another layer of complexity when it comes to complying to all of this legislation. And it's important and there's been a call for the integration of all these pieces of legislation into a single legislation in order to avoid creating issues relating to the application of the various pieces of legislation when it comes to the tendering process or public procurement. And if that goal is being adhered to, is going to help, and that will require that will require that a team of experts can sit together and analyze each piece of legislation and be able to align them accordingly, avoid duplications and avoid contradiction. That is going to help. That is going as well to ensure efficiency and effectiveness in public procurement in South Africa. When it comes to complying from a procedure perspective, it's very important that organ of state complies with all the procedures. And there are many areas where the compliance is needed. For example, when it comes to competitive bidding, when the issue of a competition, it's very important that organ of state that are involved and that want to advertise a tender or a bid, they need as well to decide whether they want it to be an open tender or a quotation. They need to decide about the strategy that they need to use. And if they decide to use competitive bidding, they need to ensure that they comply with all the requirements associated with this. If they decide to go with a quotation because of the amount that is involved, they need as well to comply with the regulations or the procedures that are associated with such decision. And also when it comes to procedure, the issue of bidding committee as well, the bidding committee system plays a very important role, because this bidding committee system here serves as a governance structure or a government mechanism to ensure that everything is done. All the procedures, all the legislations are also adhered to. And so we have three categories of bidding committees. We have the first category is the bid specification committee. And this particular bids committee is responsible to compile the specification for each tender or each contract. It's very important that they look the specification, whether the decision that has been made at departmental level by the procurement procedures in terms of specification, whether they aligned with the policy of that particular organ of state, either a government department or any public entity. Is there any alignment in terms of procedure? Or there is no alignment? And that is one of the responsibilities of the bid specification committee. Apart from that as well, it is also responsible to draft the bid document and set bid criteria for tender. It's very, very important to look at, it's very important to underline that this committee plays a very important role, because when the specifications are not done properly, they are wrong, they are unclear, or they are incomplete, the tender submissions are going to be affected. Those that are going to apply, they will apply using the wrong information and and submit their tender thinking that they've used the correct information. and this is going to affect their chances of being able to be awarded the tender. That's why this committee plays a very important role. It checks whether the specification that has been set have been followed or not. And it's also important also to look the issue of quality assurance standard. It looks as well whether all the standard, all public procurement standard have been followed or not. And the second committee is the bids evaluation committee. The second, once all the documents have been submitted to the bid specification committee, they've checked and assessed and find that either everything is okay, everything is above board, all the procedures and all the legislations have been followed, and they make their recommendation. The document will go to the next stage for evaluation, and the committee members of this structure will evaluate the bids that have been received, all the tenders that have been received after the tender closing date. And they will also check the functionalities, check as well the issue of price, check as well the issue of BEE point, and make as well their recommendation. And after doing that, they will also submit their report to the third structure, which is the bid adjudication committee, which is the last structure when it comes to governance. And it's very important also to underline. It's also important to underline that when it comes to procedure, we also have the central supplier database, which is also a procedural requirement for every government to be able to look to allow their suppliers to register on the supplier database and be able to trade with the government department. Both legislation procedures, compliance mechanism seeks to achieve various objectives, including transparency, efficiency, and cost effectiveness in the public sector. That is the purpose of using this legislation, complying with legislation and also complying with the procedures. It is for the purpose of ensuring transparency, efficiency, and cost effectiveness. And our government has made some effort to enhance transparency and efficiency and combat corruption through public digitalization, called as e-procurement. But it is important also to underline that in the context of South Africa, digitalization is not full digitalization, it's partial digitalization, meaning that we still use the manual procedures with some element of electronic features. And this system creates procurement risks. And it's very important also to ask ourselves, because there's a debate when it comes to whether all procurement procedures should be digitalized or some of them should be digitalized. And we have some countries that have decided to digitalize all procurement procedures. and others have decided only to digitalize some. And among all the countries that have decided to digitalize all procurement procedures, we have the Republic of Korea, South Korea, and it is working very well for them. But other countries have decided to go with digitalizing some aspect of a public procurement. And when it comes to whether we should digitalize all or some, this becomes as well a cultural issues, because some of the countries there, some of the country, the level of corruption or the level of ethics is very, very, very high compared to other countries. And it's very important to pay attention to that particular aspect, the human aspect and the cultural aspect, and link it as well to our procurement practice. If we decide to use some procurement aspect and leave others, knowing our culture as a country, are we going to be able to achieve public procurement objectives, the primary objectives or the secondary objectives? These are some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves. But when it comes to South Africa, we have decided to use a partial public procurement system. And this has got issues. And among the issues that we face include irregular expenditure, because not all processes are known. It's only specific aspect that are digitalized and others are not digitalized. And those that are digitalized, the government is able to see through audit, they are able to see and trace what is taking place. But when it comes to the manual aspect, it becomes difficult because papers can be produced, papers can be changed, papers can be removed, can be replaced. It makes the entire public procurement difficult. And in Africa, some of the countries have decided to use full digitalization in their public procurement system. This include Tunisia. Tunisia is followed the model of South Korea by fully digitalizing their public procurement system. But there are many of the other African countries have decided to partially digitalize their public procurement. And among these countries, we are there, Nigeria is there, and other many countries on the continent also have decided to use that. And when we look the level of unethical behaviors that are associated with our partial digitalization in our public procurement space, and the amount of regular expenditures that we receive on a yearly basis, it's very phenomenal. It's very, very, very high. The amount is very, very, very high. Very, very high. And it's also very important to ask ourselves when we talk about full digitalization, what do we mean? We mean that we need to ensure that the public procurement life cycle is digitalized. From the beginning till the end, we need to ensure that all the tender phases are digitalized. And in doing that, the government is going to be able to see what is taking place in each tender phase. When it comes to the pre-tender phase, what has been done? we are able to trace, we are able to see. Visibility is a key issue, is a key aim when we want to digitalize, to fully digitalize our public procurement system. It's an important aspect that we need to ensure and achieve. And we need as well to be able to see what is taking place as well in the tender phase. What is taking place in the post-tender award phase. And if we fully digitalize our procurement system, South Africa is going to help us to minimize the level of our irregular expenditures. Because one of the issues that we're facing is that it's difficult for our government and for internal audit to be able to manage procurement processes effectively, while some of the aspects in procurement, in public procurement, are manual, subject to human manipulation. And this makes it difficult for government to be able to achieve socio-economic development goals and be able to effectively manage public procurement aspect. One question that we need to ask ourselves, since we have introduced our partial digitalization in public procurement in 2015, is it effective? That is an important question that we need to ask ourselves. What are the various reports saying about partial digitalization of our public procurement? When we look at the various reports, various studies, various findings, are they saying that our public procurement is effective? The answer is no. And therefore, it's very important that we consider, as a government, we consider to fully digitalize our public procurement in order to reduce irregular expenditures and also reduce corrupt practices. Since as long as we'll continue using a partial digitalization of our public procurement, we'll continue to face the same issue, because that is the problem. That is the loophole that need to be addressed in our public procurement system. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.